Well, I just fell into playing music as a child. So originally it was the guitar, and I grew up in the back of a store, and my father had a toy guitar in the store. So I played that for a little while, and then my mother, she got me lessons on on this guitar, and um, I was young. I was 5 years old or so. Make a long story short, I started playing the cello. I was about 7. And that was because I was very small, and that was the biggest instrument they had. Had they had a double bass, I probably would have gone for a double bass, but they didn't have a double bass. And I just liked music. Obviously have an affinity towards music. I like music. I like songs. I like everything. I like classical music. I like popular music. I like jazz. I like people who play good. Play well. They're all the people at Curtis were young in my day. Everybody was young. But I was young. Yeah, I was very young there. But there were a lot of those days. They went for younger kids more than now. They go for kids out of high school more. I think it all depends because Curtis at one time had a high school, and then they gave up the high school. But for years and years and years, it had a high school because when you're going to be a great classical musician, they train you at a really young age. They really, yeah. To make a long story short, I was fortunate enough to study with some good teachers when I was little. My parents didn't really know anything about music, but they made the right decisions and they brought me into good hands, good people, and Curtis is a great place. It provides a world-class education. Yeah, it's just a great place. It's a very small version of Juilliard, more private, more one-on-one contact with the teachers. How did I become involved with George Augsburger? I was mixing a lot of records, and a lot of times I would go to New York to mix records, and the rooms that I liked didn't quite have these speakers, but the rooms that I liked, I found out that he had something to do with. And then he's always been a speaker designer, and it seemed to me that since we're making music for speakers, dude would know what he was doing. And then it turned out when I was originally going to build the studio, I had been in other studios that weren't, they were okay, but they weren't really designed to produce really great sound. Even though they were recording studios, some of them were good, some of them, I don't know. I've been here so long that I guess I'm spoiled. But there are a lot of great recording studios around the world, and I wanted to. I knew that Philadelphia lacked a studio like I had in my mind, and basically, I started getting involved with George Augsburger because of my friend Donald Murray on the West Coast, who's a Grammy Award-winning engineer and brilliant guy, who used to be involved in the Philly sound back in the '70s. He's been my friend for a long time, since the '60s. He said if I was going to spend money on a real studio, that I should call George, because all the studios that I was listening to and going to that I liked, both here and in the West Coast, he had his hands in. So I called him up, and he was a very modest guy. He was really very reachable, and I told him what I wanted. And this control room was designed by George. I wanted to have the big speakers at ear level, and I wanted to have it shaped like a half a cello, sort of more of a hexagon, more rounded. And but he has a way, of dealing with hard and soft surfaces, and it turned out good. He really he drew great designs, and The hippie carpenter I had help that build this place, him and his assistant, they were really into it and they did a good job. But George really designed like the reflective surface in the back there. That's all George. He does. It's all done on an architectural blueprint, and it's all duplicated, and the level of the indentations and all that kind of stuff. And basically, when I went to build the J room, I just built the same room. I mean, it's identical. Um, the studio, I didn't really have his help, and basically, I I was reading some books in the days when I was thinking about building building studios. I mean, this wasn't the first studio I built. I mean, there are many, but I'm not going to get into that. But it started in the '70s in my basement. To make a long story short, most of the books I read about physics and how sound travels said that if you didn't have any parallel walls or parallel ceiling to the floor, that sound won't stop. It won't gather in a hole somewhere and it won't. There won't be that much. Your reflection will be pure and will include most of the overtone series, the harmonics that you're looking for in when you make a room. Well, to make a long story short, that room out there, none of the walls are parallel. The only thing that's straight is the floor. Everything is tilted a little bit. And, it's like it was stupid of me to do it that way, but it turned out okay. I mean, a lot of people have been here. As I was saying to you before, yeah, a lot of people have been here. A lot of people I worked for never come in the place. I mean, but then a lot of people I work for have come into the place not for me to work for them, but for other reasons. So it's like, but R. Kelly's been here for a long period of time. I mean, a lot of people. It's too hard to remember everybody. That's one thing, and the other thing is because I work for a lot of people at this point over the internet. It's really hard to say.
Can you talk about how you feel about the future of music in Philadelphia?
Well, that's a hard question. That's what I was saying before. I hope people all want to learn how to play. I think the School of Rock's a very healthy thing. Kids want to learn how to play their instruments, and the Black Church has been amazing as far as teaching instruments to kids. And I just want to see kids learn how to play music and enjoy it. As far as the scene in Philadelphia is concerned, right now you have your top bands who are making a living, and then I mean, I don't even know how many you have of those, but I always tell people the big thing is to just try to make enough gigs and get yourself in, so you can pay yourself. But I really don't know. There's always going to be talented people growing up in a big city like Philadelphia. That's for sure. Whether they stay here or whether they move away, I really don't know. Well, I think Sal's a good kid, good guy, and I think he loves music. I think that he grew up in classical music and popular music, and he has a great desire to do well. Um, yeah, I mean, it'll all depend upon the talent that he gets surrounding him. I mean, in the same way it depended upon the talent that I had surrounding me. I don't think in the studio would have been anywhere near as great without the roots and like I said before. And Sal's got to make relationships. He's got to build relationships with both young bands and older bands. And um, you know, I wish I had a crystal ball and could say that one thing is going to work and one thing ain't going to work, but I could never do that here. I really couldn't do that here. I'm just hoping to keep coming up with some good ideas so people will pay me to arrange.
Now you've mentioned you're not retiring. You're going to stick around. And
Yeah, I am staying around. Yeah, I mean, I have an office here. I'm staying here. I mean, I'm not a part of it, and in a way, I don't really want to be a part of it anymore. So yeah, I'm working, playing my cello a little bit. You know, I'm working and reading books. You know, in my little office. You know, that's what I'm doing. So yeah, it's cool. Yeah, I'm staying. I'm not leaving Philadelphia in the short while. That's for sure. Not for the next 5 years or so. Okay.
I think
Was
that's
that
about
groovy?
it. Yeah. Great.
Good.